Maricela, can you hear me? It's George Schlossberg.
Por favor, escanee el código localizado en la última página de la agenda.
Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Here.
Councilmember Fosse,
Here.
Councilmember Call.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pimentel is absent, and Mayor Hernandez.
Here. There are no scheduled agenda changes. Any council authority member who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare the conflict at this time. Pursuant to Government Code A4308 Levine Act, any council authority member who has received a contribution of $500 or more within the preceding 12 months of a party participant or their agent related to an item on the agenda must disclose that contribution on the record prior to participation in the discussion or decision on the item, and may be required to recuse themselves as applicable. Any conflict? All right, it's item 6.1, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a supplemental lease amendment number 6 to Army Lease DACA 05051-21-508, thereby extending the interim lease through March 31 to 2066.
Mayor and Council, this item is being brought forward to you as it is an item that we have been requesting from the Army. And we do have a deadline for the city to make a decision on this in order to be able to move forward, hence the special meeting that we're holding tonight. So just a little bit of history on the Riverbank Army Ammunition Plant for our residents who are interested in learning more. The original construction was in 1943, and it was an aluminum reduction plant to support the World War II military production. In the early 1950s, it was reactivated to manufacture ammunition for the U.S. Army, and it served as a key employer in Riverbank for over 60 years. The Army Armament Retooling and Manufacturing Support Program allowed private companies to lease the space on site for commercial and light industrial uses after the ammunition plant portion of it closed down. So some of the history of the base closure part of it is in 2005, the Defense Base Closure Commission recommended the closure of the ammo plant. In 2006, the Riverbank Local Redevelopment Authority was formed, and it serves as a single entity responsible for the decisions regarding the reuse and development of the property. In October of 2008, Riverbank adopted that reuse plan for the conversion of the military site to civilian use. The reuse plan and a homeless submission, which is required, were forwarded to the U.S. Army and final approval was received in November of 2008. In March of 2009, the LRA, or Local Redevelopment Authority, received no notification of the approval, and we are now the implementing Local Redevelopment Authority that's responsible for executing the reuse plan's guidance for successful reuse of the property. The LRA submitted an economic development conveyance application for approval to the Army in May of 2010. The LRA received a letter dated December of 2012 from the Army and concurrence from the Office of the Secretary of Defense in February of 2013, which authorized the use of an economic development conveyance for the transfer of the Riverbank Army Ammunition Plant to the Local Redevelopment Authority. In September of 2017, that Economic Development Conveyance Memorandum of Understanding, which is the formal agreement, was negotiated to articulate those details and the intent of the business deal between the Army and the local redevelopment authority. This economic development conveyance, or EDC, defines certain rights and obligations of the LRA and the Army and identifies the requirements, restrictions, reservations, conditions, exceptions, and procedures for the execution of the document. In the LRA and the city of Riverbank knew that we would probably not be the best of landlords, as that is not a core municipal service that we offer to our residents. And so it was decided that in order to bring the most economic development opportunities to the site, that a master developer would be better suited to oversee it. So we did release a request for proposals for a master developer for the Riverbank Industrial Complex. And after reviewing the submittals and interviewing candidates in early 2018, the board began negotiating a contract with Ametis. The agreement was executed on December 14th of 2021, and Ametis officially took over operations of the complex in April of 2022. Ametis has since purchased Parcel B as agreed to in July of 2022 as part of that master development agreement. And so now we get to the interim lease. So the original interim lease was signed in April of 2021. And in March of 2025, last year, the LRA exercised the final option year to extend the term through this month of March 31st, 2026. So previously we were on a year-to-year lease. In August 27th, the LRA did request formally to the Army to please consider a long-term lease. And so what is before you tonight for consideration is a long-term lease that is framed as a supplemental lease amendment to the current interim lease. And so here are the terms that are being proposed as part of that lease amendment. The term of the agreement would extend for 40 additional years with a new expiration date of March 31st, 2066. The interim lease would terminate once the Army does tender a quitclaim deed to the city, thus officially conveying the property to the city or LRA. The premises will continue to be subject to the general supervision and approval of the Office of the Assistant Secretary, Environmental, Office of the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Environment, Safety, and Occupational Health, and the Base Realignment and Closure Directorate, or BRAC. There is a new exhibit which includes an updated inventory and condition survey of the lease premises. Once the lease is actually terminated, whether it's by conveyance or because the lease expires, then a closeout survey will also be required prior to the conveyance. The lease and any sublessees hereunder can extract or use groundwater from the subsurface of the lease premises via the wells that are identified as part of the water system. So currently it does identify 3 wells, 3 active wells, which are number 1, 5, and 6. Although those are active, we do have, those are not being used for potable water uses, so they are being used, if anything, for manufacturing. The lessee will use all reasonable means available to protect the environment and its natural resources, ensuring that there's no further damage to the site as part of any activities that we or a sublessee does on the property. Lessee shall submit to the lessor and maintain thereafter an environmental compliance plan within 180 days of the lease, which will describe in detail the program for that environmental management and the method of compliance. There property management plan for the land use controls dated January 2026 is incorporated into this document as an exhibit as well. The lessee or sublessee may encumber its or their leasehold interest as well as its interest in the improvements on the leased premises, but by one or more loans secured by a mortgage. The proposed holder of any mortgage must be approved by the government prior to the execution of any loans. And the lessee shall promptly discharge or cause to be discharged any valid liens, any rights in rem, claims and demands of any kind, except one that's in favor of the government, which at any time may arise or exist as a result of any action of the lessee or any sublessee with respect to the leased premises. And final one, all of the lessee's obligations under the interim lease shall survive foreclosure or any other transfer of leasehold interest in an insolvency proceeding and become the obligation of any successor for only those obligations arising during the period of ownership of said successor. So our recommendation today is to authorize myself, the city manager, to execute this supplemental lease agreement number 6 with the U.S. Army for the continued reuse of the former Riverbank Army ammunition plant. I'm available for any questions. George Schlossberg, Melissa Holdaway, who both oversee our LRA, are available for any questions as well.
Are there any questions or comments from council?
Just one, if I could. So just for clarification, so on the equipment survey there, the only concern I had was the transformers that were leaking. Say the property does convey, and then so this agreement would terminate. I'm assuming that the state regulators would still oversee the leaking transformers, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. That's the only concern I had.
Any public comment online as well?
I didn't receive any request and I see no, wait a minute.
We
Yeah.
have one online. We do have one comment online. Mr. Hernandez, if you can go ahead and state your comment.
Hi, I had a question more than a comment. Now I understand that the Riverbank LRA is a Superfund site, and there's been a moratorium for new wells in the area. Is the current facility using well water right now as we speak? And is there still a moratorium in place for wells in the adjacent area of the LRA? I mean, of the Superfund site? And that's all my comment.
So the site is currently not using the wells for any potable water. Melissa, are they currently using any in manufacturing? I know there are a couple of wells that do need to be rehabilitated in order to be used. So at this point in time, that has to happen first before it can be used. As to the moratorium for any new wells, that's something that Stanislaus County has placed. And so at this point, that still continues to stand.
Any other public comment?
There's,
Is it, you said the same person?
yes.
Diego, we're hoping to get your comments at once. So if anything, we'd love to chat offline. And
Oh, there's
answer.
no additional comment. My apologies.
We are here for additional comments later. All right, so I'll bring it back to council for any other comments or questions or a motion.
I make a motion, we approve item 6.1.
And I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Authority member Uribe,
Yes.
Authority member Fosse,
Yes.
Authority member Call,
Yes.
and Chair Hernandez.
Yes.
So that passes 4-0.
Thank you so much. All right, and that was our last item for today. So this was a special meeting. We are adjourned.